viewers, today I have two of the tutorial ships that we built in the previous video, which I haven't built the second one, my bad. For two reasons. We have them because I'm going to show you the difference between them, and hopefully this is the correct one. As you can see, I have hydrogen and oxygen on board on me. Lights fitted in the teleporter room, which I forgot. Engineering, is this the one? Yep. So as you can see, doors are functioning without any use of power, which wouldn't happen if you hadn't done the life support group. And if we look, we can see that life support is charging even though there's no fuel actually in use on board the ship in the hydrogen tanks. The main group isn't charging because that one does require fuel. There isn't enough power generation through the solar panels to maintain or to meet the criteria for the main group, but life support has plenty of power being produced, so is actually charging the batteries, which is why the oxygen generator and all the doors function. I don't think these lights actually need power yet. That'll be interesting to see how they implement these, because if these lights end up requiring one unit of power per tick, then that means each solar panel is not worth it. These need to be lower requirements than a solar panel can offer to make it viable. Otherwise people will be sticking solar panels all over their ships, and that's just, you know, if you want solar panels to be now I said don't use all of the fuel on the cargo pad, but this is only a test. Now the fuel will go quite fast early on because it's going to charge the batteries a lot faster than what it was. As you can see, the fuel's burning down fast, but it's charging. The batteries are now charging fast in both groups, and we know once solar panels battery is fully charged, which will take longer to charge than the main group, the fuel consumption will be much slower, which is why we've got a second ship, because both of these batteries are fully charged and the fuel tanks have only been filled once. So we'll jump over to that ship and you will see what I mean. But before we do, we may as well have a look around this ship, isn't it? Well, so we already know about this side of engineering, and I mean, it looks okay. I mean, it's not a bad design. I don't think there's realistically a truly bad design. It's down to how you want the design more than anything, and I mean, it's not too bad. It's not terrible. As you can see, the Sapphire sitting up there. This is my test server, and I was testing. In fact, this is from the previous video when I had done the ship tour on the Sapphire, so I hadn't dismantled the Sapphire or anything. I just left it there. So it's small, comfortable ship to move around in. Definitely plenty of room, and we'll jump aboard this one where the batteries are fully charged. It's deja vu, isn't it? As you can see, the batteries have been used a little bit, but if we go into here, we can see that they're fully charged and the fuel consumption is very low whilst just idle. I mean, you could throw more solar panels on and almost idle this out completely, but by doing so you're increasing your cost in iron and copper drastically. You could even reduce the amount of solar panels you have on board a starter ship, on board this ship, and still get power gen in for life support, and this ship would be a lot cheaper to build. But this ship's still already cheap to build, a lot cheaper than my first starter ship, which I learned a lot of things from. But you know, it's a see that would be easy to get. Copper would take a bit more time, but you could because you start off, if you start off with Hurl's coal or I think I can't remember all of their names of the different companies, because I only ever start off with Hurl's coal. Obviously there's pirates, but if you start off with Hurl's coal, Sentinel, and there's another one. The first three will give you a considerable amount of money to start with, and the ability to purchase one of their ships, and a crate of oxygen, and several crates of hydrogen to fuel your ship. If you start off with the pirates, then you get a lot less. I think you start off with some iron and steel, copper, but very little of it to get you going. But no money. So you owe very little money, a lot less money. But you could easily go, and if you start off with one of the top three, you could easily purchase in some copper, mine once you've got the iron recover, you'd have to purchase in the silicon. But once you've got the iron covered, you could purchase in the last of the copper that's remaining, or you could carry on mining until you've got the level of copper that you want. Or you could just go into this console and just go to modify one of, obviously, we should actually just scrap that one, and you could actually go into modify, and then you could just say, I don't want these, and you're going to give me the option to delete that. In essence, you'd break the requirements down on solar panels quite drastically in doing so. And as long as you have an idea of what and we need to disable the hydrogen generator, so that would probably be just fine as it is now, and already we've took it down below 6k, whereas it was just over 6k before, by just removing 12 solar panels. But you could do that if you wanted, and then you just click on confirm your modifications, and because you've taken some resources off, you'd end up gaining some resources back. So in this case we'd end up gaining 1.5 k of iron and 540 copper back. But we're not going to do that, obviously. because I would rather have those extra solar panels and and know that the ship is going to function correctly as it was intendedly built. So the Alexia class was the ships I'd built on Pixie's server. As you can see, much more expensive for copper and iron. This was the basic ship, and we will build all of them. The Alexia 2, and then the Alexia 3. And we'll get some oxygen for all of them, and we'll take the rest in hydrogen, and we'll go aboard the Alexia 1. Now, I said a minimum of 6 cargo pads is what I tend to aim for, and that is always what I tend to aim for. As you can see, I went with the floor fans on this ship. I could have reduced copper requirements by going with the wall fans, but I like the floor fans more. I always have. So a much smaller design to the ship. It's just one long hull, which is why I was going over in the original video. You could just design one long ship rather than having nasals or dual floors or whatever, respawn point, depot, the dispenser and the salvager. But on board the tutorial ship, we've spread out engineering, so if your ship gets damaged you can run around and repair it. In this one, if it gets damaged, you can't get to the back of this ship, so you can't repair anything back there, so you are immediately in trouble. And we'll throw 1 crate of hydrogen in here, and the bridge is where we'll find. And I said I don't go with these as a rule, but because it was a public server I decided to do so, just to test it out. And fuel consumption isn't too bad. I mean, even without the I don't need 3 million in here, but the ship was overcompensated for in both groups. 2 shield generators minimum requirements that I always place. The loader, ammo loader, I don't need it in reality. I could have scrapped that per cargo pad there, removed the guns off the front of the ship, reduced peak consumption or reduced weight, which would be the biggest noticeable difference, because this doesn't actually use power unless it's being fired upon, unless you're firing it, I do believe. In fact, that might actually have a permanent drain over 1 or something, I'm not sure. But the ship is actually, once it's fully charged, this ship is much more, well, not much, it's more or less like the tutorial ship. It's very fuel efficient. The Alexia 2 the same. In fact, all of the Alexias are very fuel efficient. They're all based on the Alexia 1, so every ship has the same design, but this is a 3-story ship. So all I'd done was, this was the original design, and it's just been extended further back. The bridge was made smaller, and the oxygen generator was put out onto the main cargo bay, and more shields was added for more protection. And while we're here, we can look at this console, and as you can see, life support charging, which is what we want, because then if the ship's dead in the water, we still have access to move around the ship, and the critical systems will be fully functional. That's the main bulk of it. Because this is a cargo ship, it's got a cargo teleporter on because of the multi-stories. In reality, you'd have that on the middle deck, so it's easier, but as you could see, there's a door back there. It would make life very difficult moving around that. Another ammo loader, again, I don't really need it, but I've got one. And then engineering, we use the big engines in this one and the big fuel tank, which can hold 75,000, but fuel is being used a bit faster than in the previous ship. But once these are all charged, it's much more fuel efficient. 15 million on the main group or the default group, and 3 million on life support. Again, I don't need 3 million on life support. Realistically, just one battery on that would have been more than sufficient. But I have a habit of throwing in a lot of batteries on things. There's a fuel tank up here, just in case you want to add more fuel, as this one is like a reserve. So when the main tank's empty, you've only got 10k of fuel left, you know that you've got to look for fuel. A bunch of batteries up here. Like I said, I don't need them. I could have easily just scrapped all of them and just left these stairs coming up to this tank and scrapped all of this part of the floor, which would have reduced weight, because each one of these give you 400 on the weight, I believe, the batteries, if I remember correctly. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, oh no, my bad. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 2400. And then these are 2. So 10,000, 1,000, sorry, just in weight here on the capacitors. If I'd gone with one of the large capacitors, that would have given me the equal amount of power that's here, that these can distribute in one gush, and it'd have been 400 in weight. So I could have knocked 600 on weight just off them alone. These batteries, I wouldn't need as many. I could have actually completely removed all of them and just gone with 2, for example, and just cut the floor there and got rid of the whole of this part of the deck. You know, it's little things like that that you can consider. I mean, I could have even put them batteries down here if I wanted, like underneath the stairs here or something. Or even stand them in between these generators and have wall lights opposite. You know, there's many ways that you can cram things in and keep it looking tidy. But and reduce your overall cost of building a ship. We've already looked at Science Bay. We've been into the bridge. As you can see, no transponder on this ship. It's either I put them in or I don't put them in. You know, I'm not a big fan of the if I don't need it, I won't add it kind of attitude. Like as you can see, there's no wall lockers. There's just the normal, the new lockers that they've added, because I don't see the point in adding the old lockers onto the walls if I have the new lockers. You know, it's little things like that. If I don't need it, I'm not going to add it. And the Alexia 3, this is my favourite one of the Alexia class, because this one is, as you can see, much more fuel efficient. It's got 3 groups. So the ship can function on mining and without the requirements of hydrogen, if I remember correctly. The ship can build everything. Let's just test that out. I'm sure this ship could function without the... No. Can we go back into there, please? So what we're on, 849. Yeah, why not? Oh, no, we've used all of the fuel. But this is still mining without the need of any... All this is doing is just using all of the power that's being generated straight away. So as you can see, this ship can carry on functioning and it's not getting a message saying, you know, fuel low, and it's running at a percentage due to the low power. So yep, as long as both machines aren't running together, this is perfect. So you could fill up a few cargo pads of water, for example, and happily sit there and wait for this to finish, and then once them are done and this is finished, you could actually turn this off, which then disables the drain on your system, and go and mine, go and process all your water, and which means that because you've turned this off, you've got more power to work with. So you might still be charging the batteries while you're using that machine, the refinery, and you could process your fuel and just throw it straight into the engines. But this is going to take longer because the power drain on the system, and unfortunately the only way of stopping this right now is to go into device manager and deactivate it. Or are you actually going to finish there? Unfortunately it still moves. Theoretically what I would have liked to have seen is that to actually stop, because that's loud, obviously. But we'll leave it running because I want this to finish because it's so loud. And we'll throw the fuel in just to help it along. But before we do that, we'll move away. So as you can see, one locker here, wall locker, because I didn't actually throw any of the old locker, the new lockers in, I don't think. An ammo loader, 2 shield bays, transponder, another terminal for you to keep an eye on your systems. This, I've never used it, but it's there just in case. Don't know how it works. Dispenser and salvager. Theoretically I would say if you're by this point you should have at least 2 or 3 of these salvagers in one ship, so you can quickly run in between and salvage stuff. 2 if it's a solo, 3 for multiplayer minimum. The refinery now into the engine bay, and the fuel tank is just here. And we'll throw all the fuel in and we'll quickly run up here and have a look at the fuel burn. So it's once it's everything's fully charged, this is actually the consumption is very low. And engine bay, will look from downstairs first. I went with these big capacitors on this one, as you can see, to help reduce the amount of small capacitors I need. It was a bit overkill, but I wanted extra capacitors for the shields, and these capacitors on either side of the of engineering are production, and another one for life support, and all these ones are for the main group or the default group. And then upstairs, as you saw, it's all cargo storage and the engineer's terminal, and which is basically just so you can go between the groups. And this is another way of sorting out what's in the groups, instead of going through the editor and trying to find everything. You can go through here and it'll list any lights and fans and things like that, and once you find one you can simply, I don't think there is one, I think I've already done this, but it will tell you what your charge on your batteries are, which is handy to keep a note of. Yeah, everything's fine in there, and I don't think I accidentally put anything in here. No. So, but then again, I could just show you through the life support itself, couldn't I? Oh, it doesn't show the lights, the ceiling lights, which is weird. Unless they're further down. Floor fans. Transponder, power batteries, floor light. And this engineer's terminal, as you saw just there, is grouped to the life support, so this will still function even though you've got no hydrogen running. Does this so ceiling lights aren't listed in the engineer's console. That's interesting. In fact, not even those lights are listed there. They should have been. I'm pretty sure they are added to the group, but we'll see that side of the room soon. In my original design, I had actually forgot to put the respawn point. It does have a name, but my mind can't think what it's called. Begins with M, something assembler, reassembler, modular reassembler, or something like that. Some engines, again, these ones are balanced towards production and life support. The big engines for obviously the main group, but the smaller ones was based between more solar panels, more shield gens on the ship. I would have gone with the large shield gen, at least one of them, probably two of them, but that would have meant the ship being longer, and I didn't want to make it any longer than what it already is. And I say I like this ship. I like the ship for the fact that its functionality is good enough. I don't like this ship for solo play and defensive reasons, because it's not too good when it comes to defensive reasons, and the ship can easily sustain two Skrill constantly attacking it. The shields will never drop below 9,000. As soon as you get a third or fourth Skrill attacking it, though, you need to get the hell out of dodge. Obviously we saw the transporter room. It's a variation to see the teleporter to arrivals. I always just go with it. We saw that the bridge, this is also through life support, so you could hack a ship that's nearby without using hydrogen if you've run out of hydrogen without having to worry. Obviously be able to, after you've mined and then processed yours, you could throw them in here and create something, maybe a defensive drone or some ammunition if you've got the stuff. Just a cargo deck with a large teleporter, cargo teleporter here. And a lot of people get these don't have a constant drain on the systems. They work like a teleporter, like batteries. While they're charging, they actually drain in fuel as well. They have 1,000 drain to your drain pool, whereas these add 1,000 to peak drain, or 1,500, something like that. I can't remember their true figures, but we'll go with 1,000 to the peak drain. Peak drain is only when it's actually being used, so because this is not in use right now, it's not got a drain on the system. As soon as I use it, though, it's going to take power, and it will take 15, say the 1,500 power, and it will be gone. And then this is where you want things like capacitors to play with it, because these require a quick dump of fuel rather than slow bursts of fuel being given to them. They require a sudden dump, so these will use the capacitors, whereas the things that have a constant drain on the system will use the batteries. And some batteries are, so those batteries there you can tell are for life support because they aren't anywhere near as full as these ones over here. And another shield generator just hidden back here. You know, we've probably burnt through all of that fuel already, yep. But the default group is slowly losing power and production, and these are still going up slowly. You know, the ship does everything that I need it to do, apart from it doesn't have a 3D printer. But I wouldn't be too fussed about that, and as you can see, this is capable of being a much more efficient multi-crew ship because you have the manable turrets, but I would have rather had this being a bit wider for the main deck and having missile turrets on the front as well, so as well as these guys on the side guns, you'd have been able to fire missiles and these guys would have been able to shoot. But this was built as a solo ship, with the capability of being an efficient multi-crew ship, while I was working on getting the resources for the main ship up and running, which obviously was, as I keep saying, the Sapphire. But yeah, that's basically been all of my ships. We've gone through all of the Elixir class, we've gone through the tutorial ship, which was realistically the reason I started this video, was to showcase those, to showcase the tutorial ship rather, to show that how efficient she actually is in the game. And you know, you've seen she's actually really efficient. Their fuel burn is much lower once in use, and because we don't need all these ships, we're going to salvage them, because you know they was only test ships just for showcasing. I do expect, because the developers have said that they're happier with how solar panels are being implemented now, but they're still planning more changes to them, and which is a shame. I'm hoping that they don't reduce the power that they give, because they're already giving too much power. I'd rather them rebalance the weight ratios on all of the objects, which we can quickly have a look at outside of the game in the editor itself, and you'll see why I say please rebalance weights. So if you look at the objects as I scan over them, you'll see that weight icon at the bottom. Currently 100 on this one, 50, 200, 500. Oh, so these was 500, not 400. And how many was on that ship? No, I done the calculations right, because I was working from the capacitors, which was 200, which I said was 1,000. So 5 of these equals 50,000 in sudden drop of power that can be thrown to, like, the cargo teleporter, transporters, anything that has a peak consumption that needs that sudden burst of energy, warp drives, etc. Or while you're warping, rather, that's where these come into play. And so this would be 1,000, and that would be 5 of these would be 1,000 in weight, and 50,000 overall power that could be thrown straight at a ship, at something that requires it. And then if we look at the large power cell, 400 in weight and 50,000 capacity. So one of these equals 5 of those batteries at 600 weight and lower. It weighs at 600 less. So that's why I say it's cheaper to go with them. And I know it takes silicon, it takes a lot more copper and iron, but I'd rather take the copper and iron hit and have the low weight, less weight and more efficient use of that. And if that meant I would have to lose a cargo pad or two, then so be it. You know, efficiency pays more dividends than cargo space. And when you start building bigger ships, you'll start to realise that you end up with a lot of dead space. And in past ships, I would use every ounce of space that I would have, and that would mean tons and tons of cargo pads. So having things that takes up cargo pad space is a plus right now. I would like to see a large battery added, because then the smaller batteries would be for cramming into tight spaces where, you know, you don't really need them, and then the small batteries could be used for life support and things, because 1.5 million for each battery. A large battery could be, I don't know, 5-6 million storage. Small teleporter, but if you look at the weight, still 400, 3,200, 400, 1,600. Ship editor weighs 1,600, 7,200 for the extractor, the small mine, the mining bay, 10,800 on the refinery, 1,600 on the cargo teleporter, which has a peak drain of 1,000, 4,800 on the large teleporter, 1,000 on the peak drain, 400 on the molecular assembler. Respawn point, it's so much easier. Shield generator, small ones have 400, large ones 3,200. But these ignore, as I said in the tutorial, not the tutorial, the ship editor video, when we was building the tutorial ship, 6,500 shield gen is not what it's going to give you. These actually give you 10,000. And I don't believe I can actually show you that without building something. Shield gen 10,000 on the shields and 5,800 on, so yeah, that was right, 3,200 wasn't it, it said? Yeah, okay. 50, 800, 400, 400, 400, 400, 400. You see where I'm going with this on weight? 400, 200, 4,800, 3,200, 4,800, 400, 400. Everything that seems to be added is either 200 or 400 when it comes to things that or they're 50. They're from 50 to 400. I mean, the vending machine, I think, is one of very few that I've actually seen weighed at 100. But then would a vending machine weigh that much? Full, maybe, but I would have rather seen it at, say, 75. The terminals being at like 25. These batteries being at 150 or 100. The smaller ones being at 200. This being at 200. These, fine, leave them as they are. The tanks maybe being 300. You know, add some variations in them. The ship editor terminal being like 1,000 rather than 1,600. These are fine. That's fine. That's fine. This, I guess, could be left at 400. This small shield gens could be four, maybe 500 on each one of those. That one would be fine. uh, that I would probably say 25, you know, but that's just these. It's when you go into the actual other things like lights, 50, 50, 50. These are smaller than them and they're still weighing exactly the same. 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. See where we're going now? 50, 50, 200, 50, 50. And this has got a table and 4 chairs and 3 seats. This has got 3 seats and no table, and they both weigh exactly the same. All the signs, 50, 50, 400. You know, a plant that weighs 50, and if we show you the difference in the plants, that just takes up one of a 2x2 area on the grid. Now if we choose this one, that uses all 4 slots that are available in that grid, and that one still only weighs 50. It's a bigger pot, effectively. It's a bigger plant, so in reality this one would weigh more than that one, but and these are still, compared to the statue should be the statue should be the thing that's heavier than the plants. The plants should be, I would rather see the plants at say 30 and the statue left at 50. And I've carried a jukebox. I know they're heavy to carry on your own, but compared to a plant, you've got a better chance of lifting the jukebox over the plant if it's something like one of these full of soil in an iron, you know, that in its pot. You've got a better chance of lifting this because you've got a better grip on it. This personally again should be 25. Table and chairs should be lower. You know, I would like to see all of the weights before power's sorted out. I'd like to see all the weights actually addressed, because there just doesn't seem to be any. As you can see, all 50s on them, all 50s on these. Everything is just 50. And this is a 2x2. This is a two block rail that weighs exactly the same as a single block rail. You know, I know the devs are working on the game and whatnot, but before they start doing power, they need to address the weights and get them balanced out correctly. These should be half the weight of the large rails, and the flooring should be something like 5 on weight, not 50. These should be something like 5 to 7 on weight. You know, everything needs balancing out, needs addressing. Because it can be too much. And these have been balanced out. This is a single pad, single block. 4 of these will equal 200. One 2x2 cargo pad is 200. So these have been balanced out correctly. But I still think this is too heavy for cargo pads. I can understand why they've done it that way. And you know, a lot of ships I have seen will put this. I've even done it and then put this. There's 600 on weight straight away. Whereas if you put one of those and then you had a second floor, obviously, so you could get to these up on the second floor, it would be cheaper to throw one of these down and then have this sitting on it. And you've already, that's 250, you've saved yourself 150 on weight. You know, it's small things like that that you have to look at that aren't balanced correctly that can make a big difference when you're trying to get your ship's max speed sorted out. And I know I'm moaning about the game, but that's because I enjoy this game so much. I want it to be balanced correctly. And if you go onto the Steam workshop and Steam discussions or the forums or anything like that and start moaning about the game, you'll get fanboys who will be saying there's nothing wrong with the game. You'll get some people who will moan at you for bringing it up. You know, the problem is the developers would rather hear criticism on their game and be told, you know, is this how it's meant to be? Is this how you wanted it? Or could we have a look at this and change this? You know, and then hear somebody who comes up with something and then everybody jumps on them because they've said something that they didn't like them to, you know. We're in that age where we have too many people thinking that a game should be how it is because it is like that. We're in a society where everything's a throwaway society. TVs are built to be thrown away, not fixed anymore. You know, your household equipment is designed to be thrown away. It's cheaper to throw it away than it is to have it fixed these days. Hence the reason I say it's a throwaway society. We've gone from the society where everything was built to last to it's cheaper just to get a new one. And the same with gaming. We've gone from an era where games was built to function straight out of the box with very few requirements on patches, mostly because back then you couldn't patch your game. Once it was released, that was it. It was released. It had to function straight out of the box. And then as time moved on, we started seeing patches, but games still functioned out of the box. Now we're in an era where we see a lot of beta and alpha games coming out, and a lot of them don't function straight away. You know, you buy them and they're crashing, and all you get is it's an alpha game, but we're testing your game for you, and you haven't given us a game that's stable enough for us to test, because as soon as I load it, it's crashing. But if you know, it doesn't matter what game you play, you'll get fanboys on it. That's fine. But the fanboys have to realise some of the people who've been playing this have probably been playing it a lot longer than they've had it, so know a lot more about it than they do. They might have just jumped on the bandwagon, whereas some of these guys that have been playing it since it was first hit Steam. And I can't say to when it hit Steam, but I've had it for quite a while now, and I didn't have it when it first hit Steam, and I've seen some of the guys that had it when it literally within the first week of it hitting Steam have had their heads chewed off by fanboys. And it's nothing, don't take that wrong for the game itself, because like I said, you'll get that with any game that you play. But the game itself is perfect. It just needs balancing out, like I said, and we'll get off that screen. And you just have to accept worries is, personally, if I develop this game, there's nothing I could do about fanboys either. You know, it's what do? Do you ban them from commenting? But then you're affecting your sales, you're affecting word of mouth, because those people are going to give you bad reviews and everything. You know, it's a hard thing to deal with. But anyway, I've moaned about this game too much, and I don't need to moan. Well, not the game. I've moaned about the game, but I've moaned more about the outside influence of it too much, and I didn't mean to do that. I'm in one of those moods where I just want to argue with someone. Don't know why. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed the video. Do yourselves a favour and don't watch the end of any of my videos, because clearly if I'm in the mood of arguments, then that's where the arguments will be, that's where my moaning will be starting and ending. So take care and have fun. See ya.